Hi, love. Welcome back to the Way of Grace YouTube channel and community. And if it's your first time here, welcome. I'm Nina. I'm so excited to be sharing conversation and space with you today. And I was really inspired this morning to bring a deeper conversation around feminine and femininity into our space and time together. This is a very small piece of a bigger conversation that I have inside of my self-paced course, Being in the Body. And this is also like a small piece and a very abbreviated expression of a larger teaching that's inside of my longer term course Held, which will be re-enrolling in May. So I wanted to bring this conversation to you because feminine and femininity have become these beautiful buzzwords that I think all of us have been impacted by and connected to in some way. And I'm going to share my own devotional dissension journey and really arriving back into my own feminine essence and the expression and the frequency that femininity means to me in my life, and really just using this conversation and communion time together to deepen your own expression of what feminine and femininity get to mean to you. And some of what I'm going to bring in and share today, again, is coming from my own journey and my own devotional dissension and path of the feminine. And also some things are coming from different teachings and remembrances that I've resurrected in my time with many mentors that I study with, Martine de Luna being one of those dear friends and mentors that I just love and appreciate so much. So some of the context and the language that I'm bringing in here has been really beautifully influenced by my time and space with her. So hi, Martine, if you're watching. And we're just going to dive into, again, a really nourishing, supportive, expansive, inspiring conversation on feminine and femininity and the difference between those two things, surrender and receptivity, resourcing yourself, moving through the contraction and becoming more comfortable in dilating through discomfort, and feminine holding and being held. So I have some other resources that I'll reference because I can't dive really deep into all of these areas, but I will reference those other videos that can support you as we move through this conversation. So before we fully go in, I just invite you, if you can, if you're not driving, to really let yourself land in the seat of your own presence. So just let your body really just rest against whatever support you're seated on, or perhaps the earth. And if it's safe, just allow your eyelids to soften down over your eyes, giving yourself an opportunity to really shift from the outer landscape and the external to arrive into your inner landscape and the eternal pulse that moves within your own heart. And just begin to come into deeper communion with the breath, just starting to take some really deep and rich and pregnant breaths down into perhaps the low belly, the womb, and really allowing the breath to guide you into deeper intimacy with your heart, with your body, with your sense of center within yourself. And then just encourage your root to descend down into the support that rests below you, really allowing your seat to receive the frame of your chair or cushion or the earth. Just invite the legs to drop a bit heavier down into that sacred support. And you might even imagine an anchor descending from your pelvic bowl and your womb. And just imagining that anchor descending all the way down into the deepest layers of the earth, really allowing the lower half of your body to be taken by gravity, and just softening and sinking and deepening into the support that rests below you. Just letting yourself be held by your chair, your couch, the floor, the soil of the earth. And from that grounded support of your seat and your lower half, then just see if you can invite your spine to gently lengthen and lift. Just beginning to sense and feel the strength of your backbone and the back body as it supports the front body to open and the heart to lift. Gently widening your collarbones and softening your shoulders, just letting the arms be taken with that gravity, letting the hands rest wherever it's most comfortable for them to land. And then gently softening your face, releasing any tension, and just allowing the crown of your head to lift and rise towards the divine. Sensing the infinite support of the Holy Father, of God, and just imagining this warm golden light cocooning the entirety of your being, just letting your body be held and contained in this luminous light, and just letting your entire feminine essence just flow and rest within this container and within this frame. Just seeing if you can allow your body to soften even 2% more. And allowing the breath to naturally deepen and descend. Inviting the breath to expand in the low belly, illuminating the womb space, your sacred center. And just witness how the breath is moving and meeting you in this moment, and how you're meeting your breath. Just notice if there's any resistance or any places that you're holding tension, and see if you can just give that all to gravity as you continue to allow yourself to soften down into the support of the earth and be held in the divine light and frame of God. And as you continue to breathe, I just want you to bring the word feminine into your field, into your body. And when you invite the word feminine into your space, just notice where this energy, this frequency, this word lands in your body. Just begin to notice and witness what sensations or feelings come alive when you connect to feminine. And just really giving yourself space to receive whatever you feel and sense and whatever is arising here. Breathing into the sensation, the feelings, the texture, the frequency that's alive. Maybe just expanding to the edges where you feel the sensation of feminine pulsing in your body. And then I just want you to ask yourself, what does feminine mean to me? And again, not making anything right or wrong or judging what comes up, but just really being an open vessel to receive whatever wants to come through here as you deepen into this inquiry of what does feminine mean to me? And just allowing your body to reveal to you whatever wants to be exposed and revealed. And then gently, if it feels safe, place one hand over your low belly, your womb, and rest the other hand over your heart, just cultivating a connection between the womb and heart channel. Letting your energy pulse and run and current between these two places. As you inhale, allow the breath to rise from your womb all the way up into the heart. And as you exhale, open the mouth, deep sigh, releasing and letting go. Thanking your body for the wisdom and remembrance that she revealed to you. And just thanking God and the earth for holding you and giving you space to be held. And then just taking your time, come back to your sacred space, just letting your eyes gently scan your room, reorienting yourself back to this present moment. And just trusting that whatever you received is perfect. And you might spend time right now pausing this or after, just journaling on what came up, where you could feel the sensations of feminine in your body, perhaps what those sensations were, what that felt like. And then also, what does feminine mean to you? And just taking some time to reflect upon that again, not judging or making anything right or wrong, just really being honest and truthful with what was alive in that exploration for you, and just being really open to receive from your body what wants to be resurrected, what wants to be remembered. And this path of the feminine really does invite us to descend from our minds into our bodies, which is why in all of my spaces, we do really deep and intentional somatic and body-based practice together, because the mind only gets us so far as a feminine being. Your deepest wisdom and remembrance is going to be resurrected and reclaimed from here, from the heart, from the body, from the womb. And for the purpose of today, I'm actually going to use some slides to create a little bit of a masculine frame for our feminine energy and essence to flow within. So let me just share my screen so I can pull up those slides and we can deepen into this conversation together. As I pull up this presentation, present. Just make sure. Sometimes it won't do my full screen. Okay, I think that this should work. Okay, so as mentioned, this conversation is resurrecting the fullness of your feminine essence. And as I just mentioned, this resurrection is really a descension, a devotional descension back into the body, back into the heart, back into the womb. And I think the next slide speaks to that. The path of the feminine is a devotional redemption, inviting us to really move from the mind and to come home into the wisdom of the body. And I feel the feminine is so beautiful because she holds and houses this really deep, deep, deep embodied wisdom that, again, we can't analyze or intellectualize or be overly logical about. It's living in our own holy, sacred waters and in this realm really of the mystery. And I always say, the feminine really exists and rests within God, and the feminine is truly a reflection of God's heart and beingness. And to understand the feminine, we also do get to understand the masculine because they work in polarity. And I'm not going to go super, super deep into the masculine today because that's not the purpose of this specific conversation, but just kind of zooming out and looking at polarity in general. We can see that the masculine is like the positive force. It's directional, it's penetrative, it's consciousness, it's form, it's logos, it's truth, it's vision. It's like the container that all the feminine beauty gets to flow within. And the feminine is the negative force or charge, which doesn't mean she's negative. We need a positive and a negative to create opposition, to create the dynamicism of polarity itself. But that negative charge, that negative frequency is the void, is the vastness, is the mystery, is the receptive vessel and portal. The feminine really carries the codes and the frequencies of beauty, of creativity, of inspiration, of love. I always say the deepest purpose of the feminine, I feel, is to bring love where it hasn't gone before. And we hold the fullness of love, the like insatiable eros that exists in our system down in the grail of our womb. And it is such a pulse that quite literally for all of us on our path at some point will bring us down to our knees to just like be in the depths of this insatiable yearning for fullness that we have, and to time and time and time again, let ourselves be held by God in that yearning so that we can be filled and penetrated first, in union with God through his values and virtues and vision and seed for us as women to receive that, because then we are the birthers. We are designed to be fruitful and to multiply, right? It's like, give us the seed and the baby will be born 9 months later. Give us that seed of a creative inspiration and a project, something of beauty will be born, will be birthed, right? Give us a home and we'll create a beautiful sanctuary. Like, we are just the gatekeepers for beauty. And again, bringing love where it hasn't gone before. But we first get to really bring love deeply to ourselves and remember the fullness of love that exists in our own hearts, and remember that we are precious and cherished daughters of God, and God is love, and we are the beloved, and we get to be in this like beautiful, beautiful collaborative union first there, and then also in union with the masculine, because the feminine and the masculine need each other. I always say the feminine, the masculine, man and woman are equal, but they are not the same. We are designed to complement each other and to co-create with each other and to collaborate with each other. Our union is really what's restoring the kingdom. It's what's restoring the fullness of love and beauty and vision and direction and clarity and purpose and unity and harmony and all these incredible things back on earth. And as women, our superpower is to not be like men. We have a whole other potency and pulse and power that exists within us. But unfortunately, through the context of culture and society and the massive programming and conditioning that exists on this earth, many of us as women have been conditioned to believe that to be successful, we have to be like a man. And this has conditioned us to carry a lot of shields and put up a lot of armor of hyper independence and self-sourcing and controlling and pushing and forcing and doing and, really becoming disembodied, becoming detached from the wisdom that lives and exists from here. And we're in a major, major stage of reclamation right now on Earth, in which I deeply feel the feminine is remembering that she is designed to follow the rhythms of her body, not the rhythms of the world, because much of the world runs on a very masculine clock, which is a 24-hour clock. And we as the feminine run on, a much vaster cycle than that. And the feminine path is non-linear. There is so many ebbs and flows. It is not like a point A to point B journey. It is a spiral of initiation. And it's a path that holds numerous deaths and rebirths. Just think of your own cycle. Every month you go through a sacred and holy death to labor a radiant rebirth with your menstrual portal, with your sacred bleed. And as women, we get to really honor the many phases that we move and dance in each and every month. And we get to really harness that in a way that is so powerful and helps to really extract the fullness of our potency. But that takes a lot of bravery for us as women to come back into our bodies, because when we do decide to arrive back here, we often can meet much discomfort and meet the places that we've, maybe stuffed down and suppressed and stored different feelings and emotions, or past wounds and hurts and even traumas, that have impacted us in our lives. And those things, often do impact then the shields and the armor that we carry as protective and defensive mechanisms. So I almost think of this like feminine dissension as not only a dropping down, but also kind of like a thawing out. And that thawing out process takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery and a lot of tenderness and a lot of patience and a lot of love and a lot of compassion and a ton of grace. So just know that I'm deeply honoring you if you have said yes and you are on this path, which I think we're all destined to be on, at some point or another. But we have a responsibility as well, in this path as women, because we do carry such a power and a potency within us that is here to support and nourish the earth to flourish. And again, that's not to be done alone. This is to be done alongside with God and with the masculine, because we need that container to actually flow the fullness of our feminine through. So we'll chat more about that in just a moment. But I want to go into the difference between feminine and femininity, because again, these have become very buzzy words. And I think as women, we've kind of then now created some like boxes of what we feel and think our energy should fit within. And based on what you see online or on Instagram, you might believe, okay, to be feminine is this way, and the expression of my femininity should look this way. And again, when we do that, we're actually limiting the fullness of our expression, of our frequency, because the feminine cannot be fit into a box. She is quite literally diffuse and volumetric and wide and dilated and like so vast. Like there is no box or just one lane that she could ever fit within. So just remember that as you're tuning to this whole transmission right now, that your feminine essence is a frequency that's wholly and uniquely its own. And the feminine itself is a primordial essence that resides in our core and in the chalice of our womb. It is the innate expression of what it means to be female. which is the natural essence of love, of eros, of inspiration, of beauty, of devotion, and of truth in our own unique way. It's wholly embodied, raw, real, authentic, and it's a deeply receptive force, full of embodied wisdom and really deeply connected to the grail that lives within our womb, which is, this portal of potency and remembrance of these codes and frequencies of, things that, again, the mind can't fathom or analyze, but the body remembers and the body knows, and it really lives in this space of the unseen, of the mystery. And to really be connected, again, your feminine essence is something that you're quite literally born with as a feminine being. And for many of you listening, your feminine essence itself is your core pole, right? It's that negative force that you're descending down into. And again, with the feminine and the masculine, it's this beautiful and reciprocal dance of giving and receiving, of descending and rising. Our potency inspires the direction of the masculine. I always say, like, the devotion of the feminine inspires the direction of the masculine. Like, these two energies are meant to work quite literally in deep, deep, deep harmony with each other. But as feminine beings, we have to come down to remember that this essence is so powerful and so holy and so sacred. And it's something that you've always belonged to. It's not something that you have to cultivate or, reach for or, strive or check off the boxes to become feminine. Like, this is just something that you naturally are. And that's why I say sometimes it's like a thawing out and a de-armoring process to really come back to the truth that lives in your core and that lives in your center itself, which is an initiation into our bodies, into trust, into restoration, into deep listening, into deep feeling, into dilation, really learning to hold the fullness of sensation and be with ourselves and meet ourselves with tenderness and compassion and love and grace. So the feminine is that it's an essence. It's the core of your beingness. And femininity is slightly different because femininity is a frequency, or this is how I define it. It's a frequency in which our feminine essence is expressed. So it's a current or a channel for our feminine energy to flow through. And I always say femininity is a feeling, not a performance. So despite what Instagram or online would have you believe about what it means to be a feminine woman, again, it can't fit into one box or one certain channel. I mean, I know a lot of us that are in the online space might see, like, okay, to be really feminine must mean I have to live on a farm with my 7 kids and, be milking my cows and making sourdough bread and, like, nourishing my family in this way. Or we see femininity being like highly sexualized or sensualized, and like, okay, that must mean I need to dance in lingerie and sway my hips and be like really anchored in my sensual essence, so we kind of like go on these pendulum swings. And I'm not saying either of those expressions are wrong. Those are, again, just channels and aspects in which the feminine flow can move as a frequency within. But again, it's not something that is performative. This is coming from a deep, deep state of feeling in your body of what is most true for me in the expression of my feminine essence. And femininity is really influenced by culture and society. So again, if you like go across the world, I've traveled to quite a few places, you see the feminine being expressed in very different ways. In our Western society, I would say we've lost a lot of our feminine essence and femininity, because we've been really hyper masculinized. But in other cultures, we see women moving and being, in the cultural context of what it means to be feminine. That's why, in some cultures, really shapely and curvy women are like so regarded and revered as like the highest beauty, right? We see in our culture, like we had a lot of the programming of just being like stick thin and losing a lot of our feminine curves and fullness and like the beauty of that. So we get to really honor like what's actually true and what has been like harmful residue from our culture and society around what I've been taught about what it means to be a woman and what is most true and authentic for me, right? It's like, I'm definitely not sitting here as a woman wearing dresses every day and putting on makeup, doing all these things to be feminine. To me, your femininity is just living in the natural and raw and real expression of your heart and being deeply embodied, being very present with the pulse of life, with the pulse of your breath, with the pulse of sensation, with the pulse of feeling. So again, this will be unique to you, and you get to explore and discover what this gets to mean to you in your own life. And I always feel, our femininity and feminine essence matures and deepens in union. So as we really rest first and foremost in the frame of God and know that we are so held and cherished and loved and protected by our Creator, that gives an opportunity for our feminine essence to actually become free, to actually become more liberated, to actually flow more fully. Because I always see the feminine is like a river, but for that river to fully flow, she needs to be contained in the riverbanks of God in the masculine, right? Holding her so that she has like the fullness to feel like, oh, I can be channeled like in a way that feels so beautiful and so good to me and my body and my heart. So, so the feminine is something that we are here to really deeply remember and reclaim. And again, this process really invites us into our bodies and into slowing down and having more spaciousness in our lives so that we can actually listen to her pulse, right? I always say healing happens in slow motion spaces. It does not happen in urgency and quickness and trying to just get to the right thing, or even having to understand why. It's really coming from being in the body, being in feeling, being in the emotion, being in the love, and bringing that love where it hasn't gone before. So I think on my next slide, I have some templates on kind of like high feminine essence frequency, and then unintegrated, more immature feminine frequency. And I have these slides just to give greater context of awareness of, again, kind of like the really integrated aspects of the feminine, and then what might be like more shadowy, unintegrated, wounded aspects of the feminine. And know that it's okay if you can relate to what is on the immature feminine template. For sure, I've been there, and I still meet some of those pieces in my own life. And then that mature feminine blueprint is just like giving us the remembrance of the template of, what we're truly designed for, what God has called us to be here in our walk as feminine beings, on this planet, on this earth. So let me get to this next slide. So the immature feminine, or we could say again, like wounded feminine, unintegrated feminine. And again, we have to have a lot of compassion, because most of us as women did not go through a sacred rite of initiation from being a little girl to becoming a woman. Even in the portal of menstruation, that was nothing that was like held in reverence, at least for me in my life. There was not like a sacred rite of passage in that. I wasn't taught a lot about my emotions or my feelings, besides that I shouldn't be too emotional, blah, blah, blah. So, we have to give a lot of compassion for the little girl inside of us who didn't have space to really integrate her fullness or understand her fullness. And some of these frequencies that now show up are coming from that lack of integration. So again, just taking that as a remembrance as we go through these. So immature feminine, insecure, seeks external validation to prove her worth, struggles with making decisions or taking action. So like very indecisive, needs hand holding and coddling, maybe again, looking for someone to fix her or, just like take her to where she needs to go. Immature feminine can stay really a victim to circumstances, can be self-centered, self-sources, or even can be demanding, kind of that entitlement energy of like, okay, I just deserve this, so give me what I want. Immature feminine, needy, clingy, irresponsible, resist provision. So like resist support, is not an open and a receptive vessel to be supported, to be helped. And again, in a way that's not disempowering her, but in a way that really gets to empower her and stabilize her and bring her into her fullness. Rebels against God, men, and masculine authority. Again, like if the feminine is not held in a healthy frame with the masculine, her energy can become very chaotic and very disorganized. And again, very victim consciousness, or that self-centered kind of self-sourcing kind of consciousness. So this is why union is so critical. And for us as women to really restore our relationship first with God, for me and my path, that's through Christ. And then, with the masculine, with men. And that takes a lot of courage again, and time and presence and tenderness and compassion, to be on this journey. But I always say, really, to restore the fullness of your feminine essence, you have to reconcile with the masculine, because that frame, again, is creating the container for your energy to actually safely flow within. Immature feminine, disconnected from her body and emotions, or misuses her body and emotions. So again, that can be like kind of that hyper sexualization energy, sensuality energy, again, which is innately beautiful, but it's always, how am I directing this? What is the why behind me, like revealing this part of myself, right? Am I doing this from a really raw and true, deep place of beauty and inspiration? Or is there any manipulation tied to this? Is there any coercion? Is there any kind of murkiness that's wrapped in this energy, where I haven't like fully let myself be in the fullness of this for me first and connected to that eros within me? Associates men in the masculine with patriarchy and oppression. So again, this is like really harmful, and we need the patriarchy. We actually need like strong, healthy patriarchy, fatherhood present on this earth, because again, that like high father, high masculine energy is protective, is a provider, is what keeps us in a frame, is part of what keeps us safe, held, right? Gives direction, provides clarity, like is a beautiful holder for the feminine. And I believe, patriarchy and matriarchy get to beautifully coexist, but, they're not meant to exist solo, right? They're designed to be in a collaborative, co-creative union alongside of each other. And, again, for me, in my journey, it was just never part of my path to blame the patriarchy for everything that's wrong, because again, we too as women have had responsibility in what is happening. Has our voice and some of our power been siphoned? 100% for sure. And we get to really grieve that and have expression of anger and rage around that, for where we have been made smaller and diminished and kind of powered over. But also too, through especially the feminist movement and like the many waves of it, that has created a lot of, again, hyper masculinity in ourselves, of us just becoming like men and shielding and armoring and, then just trying to provide and take care of ourselves, which really, at least for me, did not end up feeling good. And I really realized like, wow, I need to heal some of these templates so that I can actually let myself rise in the fullness and descend into the fullness of who I actually am. So we work alongside of each other. It's a dance. Immature feminine, fully devoted to self, not the other, might be high performing, overachieving, manipulative and controlling, demands love and loyalty. So again, maybe to like this constant striving to prove your worth, your wholeness, what you deserve, whatever, right? Does not take responsibility, accountability, or ownership for herself or her actions, is quick to blame and point the finger at others. holds on to resentments, hurts, and wounds, lacking inner spaciousness and peace, because we know when we're just holding on to resentments and bitterness and frustration and like all of these hurts, we don't have space for the truth of our feminine to flow in, which is why forgiveness is a really big process and practice that I walk beside other women in, because in forgiveness and compassion and acceptance, we actually do get to cultivate space again for the truth of who we are to actually begin to truly move. Constantly collapses or spills her emotions, doesn't know how to hold herself or be held by God, right? So resists, again, that support and tries to do everything on her own. Creates and maintains walls around her heart, is not open to love, or again, like unconsciously always pushes away love because of, fears of abandonment, rejection, betrayal, which are all really real. And I want to say too, the things that we've met in the past that have created wounding or trauma that, was not able to be integrated at the time and held in love, of course, would have you create protective mechanisms and defensive shields, right, to wall off your heart. And your body did that for its survival. And we get to honor and appreciate that that was the body's intelligence at that time to quite literally help you survive. But now, in the space that you currently are, if you're here listening to this, you're most likely in a place in which there is safety, embodied, anchored inner safety, to start to unravel and untangle these different layers that you've used as kind of like false protection and have shielded you maybe from the fullness of love or being in a beautiful co-creative relationship, whether that's with God or with a mortal man or whatever masculine being, in your life. But this is like the thawing out process. Attempts to maintain control and is unable to trust and surrender, spirals into comparison, competition, and feelings of unworthiness with other women. So again, like immature, unintegrated feminine template holds a lot of the sister shadow and sister wounding. And again, those are coming from those very deep past, hurts that we've been impacted and affected by. Also, scarcity consciousness is like really a huge part of the sister shadow and wounding, and how we've all been impacted by that to some degree. So, this is just like to give you a sense of, can I see myself even in just moments, kind of connected to some of these things? Again, definitely, like for sure, this has all been alive for me at some point in my life. And again, it's only been my awareness and reshaping of beliefs and perceptions that have helped me to heal and have freed me and unbound me from more of this unintegrated energy. So let's look at the mature, integrated feminine. So the mature, integrated feminine template is devoted to God, the masculine, her partner in union, and honors his provision. So again, is able to receive and be sharpened by the sword of truth, of consciousness, of logos, of direction, of clarity, of all those beautiful masculine principles. Trusts masculine authority and feels supported in a mature masculine frame, right? So knows how to be held, how to be supported, how to receive provision. Open, soft, and surrendered, able to receive masculine penetration and energy in her body, heart, and being. And again, when I speak to penetration, I'm not just talking about physical penetration, which is, again, quite literally part of biological design. The masculine penetrates and the feminine receives, but penetration is also emotional, spiritual, energetic, all of these other layers beyond the physical that we're constantly being penetrated by the masculine principle consciousness in our life. Masculine provision comes in the form of beliefs and ideologies, money, time, structure, systems, your business, if you have one, right? Those are all masculine in their consciousness. And when you're embodied and anchored in your mature feminine template, you're receptive, you're able to receive the seed and then birth and multiply it, right? Because you feel safe and you feel held by the masculine consciousness itself. Mature feminine knows that she's fully chosen, cherished, and claimed, embodies love, graciousness, playfulness, radiance, and innocence, can hold herself and knows how to be held. So again, you're able to meet and move and acknowledge and transmute your emotions in a really powerful way. Emotionally mature is the next one, able to allow her emotions to fuel her, not rule her. Devoted to other-centered love and understands divine interconnection between God and humanity, allows systems and structures to support her, led by her heart, devotion, and service to co-create a more beautiful world for us all. The mature feminine is focused on the eternal over the material and the unseen over the seen. So again, like knows and trusts that God is always providing for her, like has a healthy relationship with this physical world that we're in, but also like her devotion is so beyond that. Like it's beyond material things. It's beyond quick cash flow. It's beyond the number of clients or money that you have in your bank account. Like your internal, like deepest desire is love itself, and being like cracked open in the fullness of that love and eros. Trust God's will and timing over her own, and follows the rhythms of the body, not the rhythms of the world. So again, like, letting go of where you've controlled and grasped and have gripped on to maybe your way of doing things, and really surrendering, to God's will. One of my daily prayers is like, less of me, more of you. Like I hand over my control to your holy vision, because that's actually how more fluidity happens, is when we're not trying to direct the ship and take control of all of these areas of our lives, but really handing that over to God and really deepening our trust in Him to hold and to support us and to direct us. Inspires warmth and love to all those that she interacts with. A gracious woman is, I actually have found, in my conversations with men, what men often say they most like yearn for in a woman is the quality of grace. And that grace is, again, the warmth, the love, the radiance that quite literally lights up any room that she steps in. Like she is so deeply embodied in her heart and her wholeness, knowing how loved she is, and she can just let that love overflow to all of those around her. So, this is like a really beautiful quality of the feminine that we all embody in our own beautiful way. But graciousness is a really, really potent essence. Aware that receiving is a result of her rooting into her relationship with God. She co-creates instead of self-sources, and prioritizes intimacy instead of transaction. So again, not using manipulative tactics or strategies to get what she wants, just truly dropping into a state of the heart of devotion and being in co-creation with God, again, knowing that God's will is what is best for her. So really handing over our control to be in divine collaboration with our Creator, and really fusing love into that space. Confident, optimistic, says yes to adventures and challenges in life itself, because she trusts that she's safe. So again, mature feminine has that deeply embodied inner safety anchored in herself, knowing that she's safe, knowing that she's held. And because she knows that, she can meet life and say yes, and, have optimism and confidence and courage, right, to take the next brave step into her dreams, into the vision that God's directed her to move towards. She trusts other women and allows herself to be vulnerable and to be seen. Huge, right? So is really supportive of other women, collaborative with other women, honors other women. Again, that's like high, mature, feminine queen energy. Let me just see what this next slide says. Yeah, and the mature feminine knows how to hold herself and be held. So let me just stop this really quick. Coming back here together, and I have a deeper transmission, I think just a couple YouTubes back, on holding yourself and being held, that moves through this practice and process of meeting triggers and how to dilate with discomfort and through sensation. So I highly recommend going back into that transmission and receiving that. And there's also a teaching on my YouTube on feminine receptivity. And that's another really beautiful conversation for this conversation of helping you and restoring your feminine essence, is to understand how to receive, right? And really come back into the natural, innate receptive portal that you are as a woman. So go back to those conversations because they will be wildly supportive for what we just shared here. And again, this whole process of resurrecting the fullness of your feminine essence is this invitation to be in our bodies, right? To listen, to attune, to connect to sensation, to trust what's arriving, again, to alchemize, to transmute, to, contain and feel what is most true, what is here. Because a deep part of being feminine is also being present and honoring truth, right? That's part of our potency. And that truth just comes from a different place than it does for the masculine. Our truth really comes down from the womb, right? From this beautiful oracular pulse that is quite literally just like booming, in every moment down in our own holy and sacred waters. So again, being a feminine being doesn't mean that you just lean back or that you become docile and, you don't use your voice. That's a huge part of being in our feminine essence and expression, is revealing the fullness of our hearts, but doing so in a way that's always coming from a place of love and devotion, instead of like sharpness and a like cutting down or blaming or manipulative place. And this is an art that we grow into as women. This is a big part of my mentorship. And again, all of my courses is really developing the feminine maturity to hold and be with what's coming up and what's true, and then being able to transmute that in a way that's here to catalyze beautiful and potent change, or to bring truth, right? To inspire the masculine even more into their potency, into their vision, into their direction. So again, this whole process brings us into our bodies and really into a space of listening. So my deepest invitation is to slow down, to give yourself space to feel, to move your body, like quite literally get to know your body, touch your body, hold your body, hug your body, and also to connect to that truth. And for me, that first was really resurrected in my relationship with God, giving myself a space in which I could expose the fullness and the vulnerabilities of my heart to this high masculine, holy father energy that I knew was there to hold it with me, and to not be afraid to really speak and pray and have that conversation with God and develop that union so that I could feel more held and more anchored in the devotional truth that is alive in my body, and really connected to the yearnings and the longings on my heart, and knowing that God can hold that all with me. So prayer and conversation with God is a really beautiful way to deepen that union, and to, again, like help to resurrect that backbone of the masculine frame that's holding you, and to not be afraid to reveal, your heart, especially to ones that you feel really safe with, dear friends, maybe your beloved partner, those that unconditionally just love and support you in your life, just really witnessing like, yeah, where can I let this part of me be more exposed? And first, where can I receive these parts of me more fully, and really be in this range of my feminine fullness and embrace the wholeness of that range, and how she gets to exist, and how she gets to be held, and how she gets to hold herself. So I'm deeply seeing you. I'm walking right alongside of you. I deeply support women, in all of this and way deeper levels in mentorship and in my group program Held. And I just hope that this conversation illuminated you and nourished some things for you. And yeah, just was able to support you in your own process. I love hearing reflections. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me here or on email or on my Instagram. I love hearing where women currently are in their own devotional dissension journey and being with their bodies. And I'm just here to walk alongside you and be a lighthouse, for you and reflect to you your radiance that innately is just beaming and bursting from this place of your heart. So until next time, I'm sending you so much love, so much grace, so much compassion, so much tenderness. And I just deeply pray, how you get to remember how loved and held and cherished and chosen you truly are by God. And you just get to really rest in that frame and really lean into God as you resurrect the fullness of your feminine essence. I'll see you next time.